Hello, everybody. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. This is a Facebook post that I posted yesterday. True story. I wanted to make a little video and then share it on TikTok and YouTube. And I named this "Very Smart Serial Killers." It's a short read, and so you can just listen to this, and then I'm gonna show you the evidence backing it up. The ex-wife came home from work real upset, and she whispers in my ear, "The secret is that a group of doctors are killing people for profit." She was dead serious. I believed her then, and I believe it now. It's very possible the murder attempt of my life was planned by those doctors. The evidence leaves no doubt this was premeditated and planned in advance. They stole my cell phone and disconnected my home phone lines before shooting me by surprise from point blank range from under my house. It was the perfect murder because who would suspect that somebody under my home had shot me? Who would suspect a large group of police would be under my home to tamper with evidence and falsify the police reports to cover it up? The plan was good, and I should have died, except God saved my life. What she didn't tell me at the time was that her brother-in-law was a doctor, and amazingly, he was the ER doctor on the night that I was shot. He was there when it's proven that my x-rays had been faked. What is weird is that she was the one that told me about her brother-in-law. She came by my home after I shot, and she seemed mad about what happened to me. This was when she told me about her brother-in-law, and she pointed it out on the medical records that I had just got. She also mentioned MPD Detective Rosie Rodriguez that day, and I would later find out in court that they were lifelong friends who had gone to elementary school and junior high together. Proof has been found showing that Rosie had tampered with evidence, falsified police reports, and perjured herself in court. It was Rosie that closed my case, calling this premeditated capital attempted murder an accident. She also called me crazy. The police report for the night of the murder attempt was illegally withheld from me for 7 years, and it helped prove that 5 MPD police officers were under my home that night. I reported this to the police via Crime Stoppers tip and named the officers as Davis, Dickey, Chatwell, Angel, and Hell. They should have been arrested a long time ago. At a later date, I was looking at the property records for my home and the other 8 homes in this cul-de-sac. Lost my place there. Because obviously somebody that used to live here knows something about the $1 million underground homes said to be here and the 4 murders, deaths that Aaron Packelhofer told me had happened at my house before they tried to murder me. I found that a company named Tabor Construction built these homes back in the 80s. I Googled Tabor Construction and found they're no longer a company, but it showed a listed business address at 3217 Mark Lane. Y'all can go look that up on midcad.org. On a whim, I decided to look up the deed history for this home, and to my great surprise, I saw where the brother-in-law, the doctor, ER doctor, used to own the same home that Tabor Construction was said to be working out of, the builders of my home. This made me wonder if this doctor, the brother-in-law, knew in advance about the secret underground homes here. Also interesting is that a former vice president for Tabor Construction was named Aaron Gobble. This man worked for the billionaire oil man Clayton Williams, and he died on the famous Clayton Williams plane crash that happened on Valentine's Day, 1990. Clayton was running for governor of Texas at the time and wasn't on the plane when it crashed. Another guy that died on that plane crash was Randy Kidwell, and he used to be married to Suzanne Conaway, the wife of former U.S. Congressman Mike Conaway from Midland. Suzanne's late brother-in-law, John Lejeune, used to own a home across the street from my home. He died right before I transferred to Midland as the next unsuspected victim, and at that time, Daniel and Brandy Price lived in that home. Brandy Merrill Price used to live in my home before I moved here. What a coincidence. I think the most important thing out of all of the many murders and crimes is the statement the ex-wife made about the doctors killing people for profit. This told me that I wasn't their only victim, and there's no reason to think they've ever stopped killing man, woman, or child, as there is no legitimate law enforcement to arrest them, and it doesn't matter how much evidence is found and posted in the public for everyone to review. If Detective Rosie Rodriguez had ruled my murder an accident, as she would have obviously done, she ruled this failed murder an accident, then this would have given the ex-wife my paid-for home and $650,000 in assets and cash. And remember, this home has a $1 million home in the backyard where they're having old show parties, and where a young girl was murdered in 2010. $500,000 was just for dying by accident because I had an accidental death policy. The ex-wife had taken my life insurance books from my home when we separated, so I feel sure that her and her grade school friend, Detective Rosie Rodriguez, already knew this. Arthur Welch, the former boyfriend of the ex-wife, posted on his Facebook that he overheard her planning my murder with her police friends to steal life insurance. There's no telling how many people this group of very smart and wealthy serial killers have killed, but they could be stopped if only we could find one good police officer. And here's the Facebook post from Arthur Welch. Okay. He posted this on his Facebook. On the date was 6/28/20, and he said, "Cops were recorded hiding evidence and laughing about this man being shot. I was dating this guy's ex-wife when I overheard her talking, and from the things I heard, she had tried to have him killed for insurance money. And to hear how many police were involved, one her longtime personal friend. I won't let Buddy Webb be laughed at. Her final words were to me, 'I will have you shot too.'" Okay, that was posted by Arthur. And this was, I was shot in 2012. So that was 8 years after he had told me that he believed she was involved, with these police in this murder attempt. Okay. And then here's a couple of comments. This Christy, she says, "Can you not press charges on the ex with all this proof you have against her? If they tried to kill you for insurance money, that's illegal. And with this ex-boyfriend being a witness, I would think that you could actually press charges against her." And I said, there's plenty of evidence to charge multiple people. But the problem is that our police here are working with the criminals that are rigging these homes to steal and kill. We have lost rule of law. Okay. And then Arthur, he reads it. He said, and I quoted him in this, and he wrote on my Facebook post yesterday. He said, "I would voice it again, Buddy Webb. They tried to set me up, burnt my house, shop, and left me without the tools of my trade. But I'm saying, screw them all. Now I have nothing to lose. A man that has nothing to lose is not someone to mess with. Someone will get an ass whooping that was meant for someone else or worse." And I wrote him back and said, "Arthur, I said, I'm sorry this happened to you. As we talked about, a snitch is somebody that turns in their drug dealer after they get busted for drugs, but it's not a good citizen that reports serial killers. You should be called a hero." Okay. And then Arthur Welch says, "Thanks. I just wish we all did our part, And then Christy, she writes back and says, "I'm sorry to hear this. Yes, I think you and Buddy should have justice, And then at the bottom of that, I throw some proofs in there, and I could spend a lot of time on the proofs, but it just takes up time on the video, but they're out there on my Facebook and YouTube over and over and over again. But one thing I said, multiple proofs show that I was not shot with my gun, as was ruled by the corrupt police who tampered with the evidence and falsified the police reports. In fact, proof shows that 5 police officers were under my home, and it was somebody under my home that tried to murder me. There's no mention in the police report for this fact. That's not a what if, could be, or theory. That's a fact. Them police were under my home. It came into my home from a underground trapdoor entrance the ex-wife already told me about. They've never admitted to it, And here, I already got the proof posted in the public, They're not denying it, They're just not saying anything, And I'm sure that's probably because they're busy sneaking under homes, covering up murders of good people, because that's what they do, And here I just, this was a proof I wasn't shot with my gun. And basically it was just some of the many proofs, The entrance and exit wounds were 2.5 inches above ground level. Rosie Rodriguez said that she found a tripwire attached to my 12-gauge shotgun when there's no tripwire listed in evidence. None of the other 10 police at my home mentioned a tripwire, including the CSI who picked up my shotgun at my house. And then the police report was falsified. 6 officers' names were omitted from the police report that was illegally withheld for 7 years. I mean, it was the sloppiest cover-up you ever seen in your life. CSI Barrett checked in 4 live shells from my shotgun, but he did not check in an empty shell. This is part of the police report. He would have had to unload an empty shell before he could unload the live shells. And what I'm saying is, if I'd shot myself with my gun, the shell would have been in the gun. It doesn't auto eject. He would have had to unload the used shell to get the live shells out of it. But what happened was, I wasn't shot with my gun, and that's why he checked in the live shells and didn't check in an empty shell. And that's my point. That was proof. One officer named Matt Davis checked in 2 empty shotgun shells after I made a point of no empty shotgun shells being in evidence. And that was a year and a half later or whatever, a long time after I started calling them out for, their mistakes they made on this, covering up this premeditated murder attempt. A lady named Lisa Rogers told me I was shot with a .45 handgun, and that fits the space requirements. The ER doctor stated he removed a large amount of plastic from the wound, which would not have been there if I was shot with a 12-gauge shotgun, as they were falsely claiming. There's a lot of evidence here. The size of pellets removed from my foot were 2.5 sizes different than what was my gun. That's ballistic evidence. That's like saying the guy with the 22 didn't shoot the guy that has a hole in him from a 45. That's absolute. That can go to court and go, no, that I was not shot with my gun means I was shot with another gun. And then we got police under my home, and we know somebody under my home shot me. The ER doctor stated that he removed the wadding from the wound before surgery. The ER doctor stated it appears to be from a shotgun. X-rays proved to have been faked in multiple ways. The MRI doesn't show any pellets at all. Ain't that weird? Should have showed the pellets. 5 police were known to have entered my home via underground trapdoor, which I've already said. And I'm going to stop there, but you get the point, is that there's just a huge amount of evidence on showing I wasn't shot with my gun, which means that, I was shot with another gun, which means this was a murder attempt. Okay. And these police are covering it up. And possibly one of them is the would-be killer. And other evidence shows that Davis, Dickie, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale were inside or at my home, but not seen arriving on the security cameras that saw other officers minutes earlier. This is what helped prove that police were in my home. This is from the police report that was illegally withheld for 7 years. The reason they withheld it, it's because it busted them. It time-stamped them. And I'm just showing you at the top. The police report shows Matt Davis is at my house on scene at 11:03, but he's not seen arriving on the security cameras. Tony Dickey, a lieutenant, he's inside my home at 11:05, but he's not seen arriving on the security cameras. Greg Chatwell, Kenny Angel, Dylan Hale, all of them on scene, but not seen arriving. Okay, but who was seen arriving was Woodward and Naylor, and that was just minutes before. They were seen arriving at 11:01. So we see these two cops, and I believe they were under my house when I shot, and they just drove around front. And these guys up here, they come in from the underground trapdoor entrance from where I'd been shot. So there's your proof. That's why they withheld the police report. I mean, that's it. That's why it was withheld. It incriminated police. And then multiple proofs show that doctors took the x-rays of somebody else, put my name on them. They did this because I wasn't shot with a shotgun, and that guy was. They were trying to cover up this failed, premeditated, capital attempted murder that was going to make the sister-in-law of the ER doctor rich. I have a video there, for anybody to review. But I did put one little proof here, and I'm going to show you. I said Dr. Hinton, a radiologist, stated that he compared my x-rays from the injury date of 1/17/12 to others I'd taken on 1/19/12. He then gave his professional assessment of them. The problem is that I've been shot 11 days later on 1/28/12, so I knew he wasn't looking at my x-rays. And since it was 2 different dates, then I knew this wasn't a typo. This told me that somebody else was shot 11 days before me, and they took this guy's x-rays and put my name on them. Why would they do that? Because I hadn't been shot with a shotgun, but the corrupt police, who we now know were under my home that night, were trying to say that I'd been shot with my own shotgun. That turned a failed murder into an accident, and nobody goes to prison, and they can keep on murdering people. Multiple proof shows that this is not what happened. This way, they could falsely claim this premeditated capital attempted murder that left me crippled for life was an accident, thereby allowing these violent criminals to go free to sneak under other homes and murder other unsuspecting and innocent homeowners. Okay, and here I'm going to show you the proof on that. This is from a radiological consultation from Dr. Hinton, okay? And it shows the gunshot wound injury date on 1/17/12, made the comparison to 1/19/12, and as I just read to you, I was shot 11 days later. Well, that wasn't, he wasn't looking at my x-rays, and we know it wasn't a typo because there's 2 different dates. They didn't accidentally type the wrong date twice, and so they, I believe they took this guy, somebody who was shot with shotgun 11 days for me, and they took that guy's x-rays and put my name on them. And in my baby, when he was shot, the doctors that kill for profit got the idea how to kill me and use them x-rays. That's what I'm thinking. Here it is, signed by Dr. Thomas Hinton. And let's see if he'll stand behind that. He's the one signed it. Okay, and let me show you another one. The obvious reason for these violent crimes is the secret underground homes where it said they were having pedophile parties. Multiple people are documented saying they're here, along with supporting evidence found on Google Maps. And one of these guys was a candidate for sheriff that I secretly recorded, said our last sheriff used to hang out in these underground homes that are put in. And so here I'm showing you that here in the backyard on old Google Maps, you can see where there's a bunker in my backyard of my house right here. Okay, you can see where they cut a ditch from the back of Home Depot coming to my house. That's where I believe the oil show parties were at. That's where I believe them police were under my home. And then all these, recordings and the screenshots of Rhonda Denman Rogers told me that underground facility is a half block away. There's a phone call saying that there's 4 3-bedroom $1 million underground homes. Ricky Ronaldo said him and his brother were in the tunnels under my home when he lived here. Layla O'Brien said she worked on this project, was put in 1987 for the Bushes, and with a budget of $7.35 million. Joe Lozano said that the late sheriff, Jerry Painter, used to hang out down there. Joe Lozano was running for Midland sheriff at the time. How's that for a witness? And police report, officers Davis, Dickey, Chatwell, Angel, and L entered my home from underground. Angie McGee Hurley told me about a girl that was murdered at the oil show party 5 minutes from my home in 2010, and I believe she parked in front of Home Depot. They come in here, and then they went in the underground home in the backyard, and that's where they're having the party. And that little girl didn't want to prostitute, so they murdered her. And she was afraid to report it and told me high-level police were at the party. So I just want to show you that too. And here, I'm the last one. There's a lot more evidence. I just put some of it up here. After I survived a premeditated murder attempt for which police that were sneaking into my home covered up, Aaron Packelhofer asked me if I knew the names of the 4 people that had been murdered and died in my home. I'd already suspected they murdered Mike Lawhon, the guy that lived here before me. I got evidence on it. Interestingly, I saw where Aaron was granted $72,000 to start up his dream business. Many people have wondered if taxpayers' money was used for hush money to cover up the underground homes and multiple capital murders connected with it. If they gave him $72,000 to help tell him to sit down and shut up, of taxpayers' money to cover up these multiple murders I was told about connected to these secret underground homes put in for the Bushes. And this is Aaron when he wrote me on Facebook. He says, I'm well aware of the many corruption accusations against the Midland police. I'm not sure if it's secret police, but can I ask, there were 4 people who were murdered, died in your house. What are their names? So he knew the names, but I didn't. And then I found this online where the city of Midland gave him free money, $72,000 to start up his own brewery. He's now a successful businessman thanks to not reporting these multiple murders, these 4 people that were murdered. And that's where the question was, taxpayers' money used to cover up multiple murders in Midland, Texas, And so I just wanted to show you that. And it's lawlessness. It's absolute lawlessness that's going on. And I want to make a point that I'm a lifelong supporter of law enforcement, never had a felony. And imagine my surprise when I started finding evidence showing that police were involved in this premeditated, cold-blooded killing. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.